of one of the chapters of the thesis of Aisha Ibrahim. Aisha Ibrahim, as you know, belongs to the first batch. And come nearer. Just drag the chair this way. As I have said earlier, that batch was a highly handicapped batch in many different sense. I mean, in many different ways. But I appreciate their perseverance and their ability to withstand the hurdles. And today she is going to present one of the chapters, and she is on her way to present the pre-submission, which could happen, once her research doctoral committee is satisfied with her work. So I'm not going to, this is a very important topic, and one thing which I would like to appreciate Aisha is for getting into a altogether new area of research. I think, as you're aware, Dr. Thomas has been kind of spearheading this area of action and research from this institute. And this is going to be an important area. And any thesis, apart from its analytical rigor and theoretical contribution, the newness matters. You can contribute to newness by way of working in an highly explored area and coming up with a new wisdom, new insight. That's one possibility. Another possibility is in an area which is totally unresearched, then whatever you say will be new, in fact. So that way, Aisha has a kind of comparative advantage. I hope you will make the best use of that. And I should not be crossing the limits because my job is only welcome. So I welcome all of you, and especially our honored chairman. And over to you, Dr. Amlinga, for chairing this session.
Good morning to all. With the due respect to my director and your director and your professor, I invite, because chairman's role is to invite each and every person and if necessary intervene at the correct occasion, maybe at the end conclude the things. That is, I think so, the chairman's job. So the title is Assessing Regulatory Dynamics in the Indian Direct Selling Industry, a stakeholder's perspective. So not like you people doing research exclusively, majority of you are doing exclusively with the secondary data. She has done some survey and she'll be explaining the sampling, survey process, etc. And you can question that also, because it is the best time to refrain herself from these activities. So you can ask the various doubts. So please help her by asking questions after her presentation. So I request Ms. Aisha Ibrahim Muhammad, good name, to present the paper within a stipulated time of 30 minutes. Yeah, as husband is also there, I think. What is her name? Doctor? Hello? Hello, Shamim. How are you? Hello, Shamim. Can you open your video?
Don't disturb.
Okay, don't.
We note.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yes.
Hello. Okay. Good morning to one and all. Good morning to one and all. I, Aisha Ibrahim Mohammed, and under the supervision of Dr. Thomas Joseph Tunkuri, will be presenting a key area of our PhD thesis, which is entitled Assessing Regulatory Dynamics in the Indian Direct Selling Industry, a Shareholder's Perspective.
No, shareholder, stakeholder.
Stakeholders' perspective. I stand corrected. It is stakeholders' perspective. And here is a brief outline of the presentation. We'll be looking into the introduction, the problem, the literature review, the analytical framework, the objectives, the methodology, pre and post regulatory analysis, which is a descriptive analysis, empirical results and discussion, and finally, the conclusion. In our normal day-to-day activities, we come across retailing structures in order to purchase products and services in order to satisfy our needs and desires. In one such retailing institution that have gained prominence but is often overlooked upon is the direct selling industry. Direct selling is a face-to-face selling away from a fixed retail location, which is done by authorized salesperson on behalf of the company. A specialized form of direct selling is the multi-level marketing, wherein the commission is made on the sales done by the representatives. That is, the commission is received on the sales done by the representatives as well as the representatives who are under them. And this multi-level marketing is characterized by a network of sellers. This is known as network marketing. Network marketing and direct selling is essentially known, earlier it was known as door-to-door selling or person-to-person selling. Now, some of the basic facts about multi-level marketing is that it has a retail sales turnover of 19,000 crores with a year-on-year sales at 5.3%, with the number of direct sellers at 84 lakh, 44% were female and 56% male. The range of products comprise of wellness, cosmetics, household goods and durables, foodstuff, beverages, and home care. And the advantage of the sector is convenience and services, better quality goods and services, alternate to traditional employment, additional income, the startup costs are low and lower risk. All this data has been procured from the Indian Direct Selling Association. However, there is certain limitations with this direct selling organization, that is, it is synonymous with a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme, wherein a pyramid scheme is a hierarchical network of individuals, wherein the commission received by each member is on recruiting new members into the network, and a Ponzi scheme is a scheme where new investors are asked to invest in a business with a promise to make payment at a future date. Here, the new investors have a risk of losing all the amount they have invested in the company. We will look into the structure of an MLM, which will be an illustration for the distinction between the direct selling company, the pyramid, and the Ponzi structure. In a direct selling company, the direct seller A sells the product to direct seller B, and the consumer, and he receives commission on the sale done on the basis of a product. However, he also receives commission on the sales done by direct seller B. But if the direct seller receives commission on recruiting a direct seller B into the network, it will be deemed as a pyramid scheme. And if direct seller A asks direct seller B to invest a particular sum of money in the direct selling company, it will be called as a Ponzi scheme. These two schemes are actually illegal in nature. The key difference between an MLM, pyramid, and Ponzi scheme lies in the commission structure. MLM is the commission plan under the direct selling company, which is a retail institution and has the presence of a legitimate product. In case of a pyramid and Ponzi scheme, there are instances where the product is sold, which is of fictitious nature or bogus products. It is not a recruitment of new members into the network. That is, a legitimate direct selling business is not the recruitment of new members into the network and does not require people to invest in return for higher income in the future. The structure may look similar to a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme, but they are not illegal. If they were to be considered illegal, all modern day organizations would be considered the same. So what essentially is the problem of direct selling? Here, there is no clear demarcation between an MLM pyramid and Ponzi scheme, which in fact threatens the financial security of individuals. And this problem is more pertinent in a country like India with huge population, lower financial literacy, and large number of people living below the poverty line who become susceptible to these deceptive practices. As of today, there are around 4,105 scams in India. This is a report by the Strategy India, one of the prominent organizations in the direct selling industry. This is for the illustration purpose. I'll be showing some of the print media which have highlighted the highlighted the case, highlighted the issues of direct selling. Here we can see that a large number of individuals have been deprived of their hard-earned savings, and they have been susceptible to the fraud and schemes in the industry. So what does the academic literature say about the legitimacy of these direct selling enterprises? Much of the foreign literature have questioned the legitimacy of the direct selling enterprises, the ethical practices, the conduct of business being done by the direct selling enterprises. In Indian literature, however, they have stressed the need for a regulatory intervention in the industry in order to protect the interest of the direct selling industry. And the gap which we essentially found is that the effectiveness of regulatory intervention, which is in fact empirically tested, has not been looked into. So the onus of our argument lies that if these markets were to operate on its own, it would lead to a situation where the market would fail. If the market fails, the state has to intervene in order to correct the market and protect the interest of the society as a whole. And how do the state correct the market is through regulatory intervention. The regulatory intervention is a set of rules governing the conduct of firms, individuals, such that the objectives are met. And the objective of the state regulation is maximization of social welfare and minimization of fraud, protecting the consumer interest. This objective helps to induce a positive behavior, which is in fact a positive outcome and helps in facilitating informed decision-making among the parties to the exchange. This problem is more prominent in a case where the business is complex in nature and beyond consumer comprehension. But to achieve these objectives, the regulation should in fact be effective, such that it's not detrimental to the cost, burdensome, does not hamper the competitiveness and the entrepreneurship spirit of the industry. In this case, we use the regulatory effectiveness assessment framework derived from the literature of regulatory impact assessment, where this regulatory impact assessment essentially looks into the impact of regulation. Instead of impact, we are looking into the effectiveness of regulation. This is derived from the OECD literature. Much of the developed nations have been doing this regulatory impact assessment. In our case, we'll be using in the case of commercial activities. This is done such that there are no regulatory failures, wherein regulatory failure can increase the cost and risk of commercial activities, and this can help in improving the regulatory quality, facilitate improved decision-making, which is efficient, transparent, and accountable. And how we go about doing the effectiveness is by looking into the pre-regulatory period and post-regulatory period analysis. Broadly, the objectives are to analyze the pre-regulatory challenges in the Indian direct selling industry through court cases, and secondly, to analyze the effectiveness of regulation in addressing the challenges of the direct selling industry through a stakeholder's perspective. The methodology would be divided into two. Firstly, we'll look into the pre-regulatory period and the post-regulatory period. In the pre-regulatory period, we'll be doing a content analysis of 71 court cases from the Supreme Court and High Court procured from indianqanun.com. The sampling methodology is simple random sampling. That is, from a list of 200 court cases, we have selected 71 cases wherein each case had an equal chance of being selected, subject to the constraint that each of the documents are not being repeated. And the time period of our study is 2000 to 2021, and it's based on the principles of grounded theory, that is a qualitative research methodology where we find out patterns in the data. required. Based on this, we did a post-regulatory period. The post-regulatory period, we have a data of the direct sellers. The sample size is 384, consumers is 377. The sampling frame is the gift trading database, wherein the gift trading database, the gift institution has been providing regulatory tradings, and it is authorized by the state government and the only institution in the state to provide trading with respect to direct selling. And the sampling is stratified and simple random sampling. The tools of analysis is descriptive and the logit model. The area of the study is Kerala. We have chosen Kerala because it is one of the first states to introduce regulation specific to direct selling, and the period of study is 2023. The reference regulation is Consumer Protection Direct Selling Rules 2021 against the Central Guideline 2016, which have Central Guideline 2016. The Central Guideline 2016 was advisory in nature. This one had statutory backing. In fact, Kerala government was the first, as I mentioned earlier, it was in the year 2013. That's why we have chosen Kerala, and it's one of, as per the, okay. Next, we look into the descriptive analysis. Firstly, we'll discuss about what happened in the pre-regulatory period. Much of the court cases, the laws and sections which were challenged were under Section 420 of IPC, Section 406 of IPC, Section 3456 of PCMCS Act, and Section 34 of IPC. With regard to the number of court cases filed, we have the diagram shows the vast majority of the cases are with regard to misrepresentation, which is in fact cheating nature, followed by the commission structure of the firms. Then we have the product, the price, the harassments, the agreement, the choice of the product or the direct selling or to become a direct seller, and the complaint mechanism. We'll be discussing each of these dimensions in detail using a descriptive analysis. Now we look into the agreement. The agreement is a statutory binding between, it's a document which instates between the transacting party what is expected of them and how they discuss the mode of conduct and how they should be within a direct seller and a direct selling enterprises. In the pre-regulatory period, vast majority of the cases were being filed with regard to the failure to comply with the terms of the agreement, the terms of the agreement being changing from time to time, the lack of clarity with regard to the agreement, which is beyond the comprehension for an average direct seller, and the breach of contract. These were serious cases which were on the basis of which the regulation has stated that a contract should be written and should have certain terms of contract, which is the cooling off period, the buyback policy, and the termination policy. In the post-regulatory period, we see that only 52.86% of the direct sellers in our study have entered into an agreement, wherein 33.07% were aware of the terms of contract. 36.19% have entered into a written agreement, and 34 had no agreement between the direct seller and the direct selling company. This is with reference to the post-regulatory period. And the serious issues which we have identified are there were no awareness, no agreement, the company laxation, non-conformance and non-meeting with the expectations, and preference given to top sellers. By preference given to top sellers is that the sellers are signing the contracts on behalf of the downlines. This leads to certain misrepresentations between the direct seller and the direct selling company. Next case, we look into the product. The product forms the basis on which the direct selling companies direct selling company has a relation with the consumer in exchange for the sum given, and a vast majority of the cases have been filed with respect to the products, that is failure to deliver any product, counterfeit or tampered products, selling products without authorization or consent. There is no receipt issuance, inferior quality products, uncertified goods, and deceptive marketing practices in order to facilitate the sale of these bogus products. The regulation states that the actual product that is to be sold should be in description with what they have received, and it should avoid misleading claims, and there should be transparency in the selling process. The post-regulatory period, we see that the direct sellers, majority of the complaints which were raised by the direct sellers were with regard to the product, that is 74% of the complaints, but they have been redressed with product replacement, that is 65%. And when addressing the quality of a product to a potential consumer, 58.3% emphasize quality as a major factor in communicating to the potential consumer. There has been a shift in the training, that is 45% consider training, product related trainings have increased after the regulation, whereas it was only 0.6% during the pre-regulatory period. And the consumers, from the consumer point of view, the 76.9% are fully aware about the product standards, 87% are satisfied with the product, and 76% claim that the products adhere to the quality standards set forth. With regard to the price is another major issue, wherein the prices were at high rates. They were selling products at inflated rates, and products were not deemed worthy their price due to their low value or inferior quality. Here, the regulation states that there should be accurate and transparent communication of the price information. Then only they can make informed decision. In the post-regulatory period, we see that only 12.5% of the direct sellers complain against the pricing practices, whereas only 12.5% felt the need to communicate the price of the product to the consumer. This is actually a discrepancy because direct sellers don't give prime priority in communicating the price of the product to the end consumer. And from the consumer side, we see that consumers are aware about the price of the product, and 79.3% are satisfied with the price. That means the price justifies the product. With regard to the choice of product or service, this point highlights the decision to purchase a product or a service lies at the hand of product or a service, or to become a direct seller lies at the hand of the individual, and there is no coercion or persuasion to persuade a product, persuade them to purchase a product. In the pre-regulatory period, they are persuaded to invest in the direct selling company, inducing people to join in the company, pressure to join, persuading him to invest in a multi-level marketing company, physical assault by the independent representatives to buy a particular product. The regulation states that false and misleading representation or engaging in any form of fraud, coercion, harassment, or any other unethical behavior or unlawful behavior would be severely dealt with. And the post-regulatory period, the consumers say that they have limited choice with regard to choosing a direct selling product, followed by unnecessary pressure to purchase, which is only 15.6%. Whereas in the case of direct sellers, only 49.4% joined on the basis of recommendation, but continue to become direct sellers in that company. So next case, we see the misrepresentation. With regard to misrepresentation, in case of pre-regulatory period, cheating of gullible people operating without proper authorization of RBI. Here we mean that they are collecting deposits from the public without authorization from RBI, making false claim, engaging in illegal business activities, employing deceptive marketing tactics, false promises, misrepresentation of products, concealing the true nature of business. The regulation states that prohibition against deceptive sale of product or service by misleading its attributes, omitting essential information, or providing misleading detail to secure a sale. So much misrepresentation or cheating cases have been filed in the pre-regulatory period. The regulation states that such cheating should be avoided, and any case of misrepresentation in the form of a pyramid or Ponzi scheme will be dealt under the Buds Act 2019. And the post-regulatory period, we see that the direct sellers have given quality as the primary focus in communicating the product to potential consumer, followed by guarantee and warranty provisions. In the second case, we see with regard to communication of the company attributes, business volume and credibility of the management have been given the top priority. With regard to network building, additional income opportunities and flexibility nature of the business have been given the priority. With regard to mode of selling, provide all information, identity of the business, and sell selling of licensed products have been given the priority. This means that the direct sellers have been there is a shift in the post-regulatory period wherein the direct sellers are being transparent in their terms of operations with a prospective consumer. In case of the consumer, 15.11% state fake information as a primary concern with regard to the direct selling, and 10.3% state fake promises as an issue. With regard to commission, the commission forms the basis of whether the business is a legitimate or an illegitimate business. It refers to all the emoluments that a direct seller receives on the basis of the sale made by him. In the pre-regulatory period, we see falsely portraying the potential of high commission substantial returns, but they lose their initial investment, misrepresenting the returns, concealing the true nature of the business, pressurizing the members to recruit new participants, illegal money circulation, or pyramid scheme. This, from the pre-regulatory period, we can see the legitimacy issue of the business. In the regulation states that the commission should be received exclusively on trademark, license mark of the product which it owns. But the post-regulatory period, we see that 72.91% received the promised commission. There is no issue with default, whereas all the commission has been received through account transfer. Even though the recruitment, even though there are issues, there is still recruitment of new members to the network, and investments are still going on that demand attention. Now, with regard to the complaint mechanism, the pre-regulatory period, we see that there is dissatisfaction with the complaint mechanism and discontent with the company's decisions and unresolved issues. A complaint mechanism refers to the mechanism with which the direct seller or the consumer can communicate their issues with the respective company. With regard to regulation, the regulation sets up an effective redressal mechanism, filing of complaint through any mechanism, be it online, offline. But the post-regulatory period says that 25% have raised complaints and reported it to the company, wherein 55.02% addressed delays in addressing the 55.02 address the complaints have been addressed in days, but 21.88% says that the complaints have remained unsolved. In case of consumers, 20.42% have raised complaints. It's with regard to product quality and non-delivery of items, and majority of the complaints have been raised through online channels, whereas only 4.77% of the complaints have not been solved. So we can see that with respect to direct sellers, majority of the complaints have not been solved, and in case of consumers, only 4% of the complaints have remained unsolved. Now, with regard to harassment refers to when the business harassments received from the regulatory side, questioning the legitimacy of the business. In the pre-regulatory period, we see the harassment faced by police officials, questioning the genuinity and the legitimacy of the business, which results in freezing of the bank accounts, the disruption of business practices, and faced not only by entities, but it is also faced by the direct sellers. So in order to, what does the regulation say? The regulation say in order to minimize the harassment issues, you should refrain from fraudulent business practices, prevent direct sellers from misrepresentation, but illegitimate entities. However, illegitimate entities would be subjected to the provisions of the PCMCS Act 1978, BUDS Act 2019. Now, in the post-regulatory period, we see that regulatory harassment has reduced by 29.03%, and 71.05% had earlier faced negative criticism, but only 1% right now currently face harassments. Now, with regard to measuring regulatory effectiveness, we look into the empirical parts. Regulatory effectiveness refers to the objectives of the regulation is being met or not, and this is a relative measure. It is based on three indicators, that is regulatory awareness, regulatory practices, and regulatory satisfaction, wherein regulatory awareness is the knowledge of a particular regulatory aspect that have the power to influence the decision-making process of the parties, that is direct seller or the consumer. The regulatory practices include the actual implementation or the tangible actions as envisaged by the regulatory authorities, which are binding on the transacting parties. And regulatory satisfaction is actually an outcome measure indication of the individual's overall evaluation of the experience outcome. Here we use the expectancy discontinuity paradigm to explain how the initial expectation, that is awareness, is being met through satisfaction. We use a logit model, which is being specified here. We have two sets. One is for the direct sellers and for the consumers. This is the result for the direct sellers. Here we can see that okay, here we can see that individuals who are aware are 0.07 times lower than the likelihood of satisfaction among those who lack awareness. That shows a negative relationship between awareness and the regulatory satisfaction. Now, direct sellers engaging in fair trade practices associated with a decreased likelihood of satisfaction. The resolution of complaints lacks significance, as does engagement levels being full-time, gender, and the experience. By engagement levels, we mean being a full-time or a part-time direct seller. Those direct sellers who have higher motivation are more likely to have greater regulatory satisfaction. They are likely to have 1.53 times odds of being satisfied. The income received have a significant relationship that is positive with regulatory satisfaction. Now, this is the results for the consumer side. In the consumer side, we see that the awareness holding other variables constant, 1 unit increase is associated with 2.88 times increase in the odds of being a consumer satisfied. That is a positive relationship. The complaint resolved has a significant association with regulatory satisfaction, with 1.3 times being satisfied as compared to those consumers whose complaints have not been address. However, irrespective of whether the consumer is purchasing from a retail outlet, the direct selling company or direct seller, or a third party website, namely the regulatory practices adopted by each retail mechanism don't have significance on the regulatory satisfaction of the consumers. Here we use an interaction term to signify the relationship between a regulatory practice in each of these retailing outlets. The other control variables such as age, gender, education, monthly income does not have a significant effect on the regulatory satisfaction. Now, the major findings of our study, we find that agreement, that is the difference in the percentage of the people or the direct sellers who have entered into an agreement, who are aware of the terms and conditions of the agreement, the lack of a written agreement, inconsistent practices that results in dissatisfaction. This is with respect to the post-regulatory period. With regard to harassment, it has seen a decline. Misrepresentation also see a decline, and there is a transparency. We can say there is a transparency in operation. Product issues have seen a decline, pricing issues have seen a decline. With regard to commissions, there is still the operation of pyramid and Ponzi scheme under the guise of genuine direct selling enterprises. With regard to choice, we have seen that choice of becoming a direct seller or the choice to purchase a product from a direct selling company has also declined. And with regard to complaint mechanism issues, the consumers, from the consumer side, side, we see that the consumers' complaints are being addressed. That is, the issue has declined. And with regard to the consumer, the direct seller problem persists with unresolved issues. In case of direct sellers, the awareness and satisfaction, we see an inverse relationship. Fair trade practices results in positive relationship with satisfaction, which should actually be encouraged. Unfair trade practices result in a negative relationship with the regulatory satisfaction, which is what it has been envisaged, but the complaint mechanism lacks significance. That means the direct sellers' complaints are not being addressed in the regulatory mechanism, which leads to dissatisfaction among the direct sellers. And in the consumer case, awareness and satisfaction have a positive relationship, which is what regulation has envisaged. That is, the consumers' interests are being protected. As the consumers are more aware about the aspects of regulation, their satisfaction level naturally increases, and the complaint mechanism being significant and positive, indicating that the complaint issues are being addressed effectively by the direct selling company. So our concluding remarks is that unfair trade practices are still going on in the industry, and it is detrimental to the interest of the direct sellers. Consumers, on the other hand, as long as their awareness increases, their satisfaction level also increases. The complaint solving mechanism works to the interest of the so-called consumers. Now, what can we say from an industry perspective? In the industry perspective, the agreements, which is the formally enforced upon contract between the two parties, should be reinstated. That is, it should be effectively taken care of. The commission should be derived only from legitimate practices. Effective complaint mechanism should be reinstated. Price and product quality should be maintained, increasing the awareness to refrain from all sorts of misrepresentation. And from the policy perspective, all these can be streamlined by the operation of the all the operations of the enterprise can be streamlined by enrollment of all these enterprises within the government. I finally conclude, and I thank each one of you for your presence, awaiting your suggestions and comments.
So Aisha, your presentation is a very nice presentation. So I request the first PhD students, please ask questions. Yeah, first discussion and the procedure. Okay. So please discuss it. I open.
Thank you, Aisha, for a very detailed, neat piece presentation, and I would like to congratulate the student as well as the supervisor. First, for selecting a very important topic, as director mentioned, that if you are working on a topic which has already been worked, the challenges are very different from working on a topic which has not been explored at all or very, very less in the Indian context. In that direction, this is a very novel attempt to understand direct selling industry and especially the effectiveness of regulatory framework. Now, this study addresses two questions. One is that why regulatory intervention was needed, and once the regulatory intervention was in place, and what is its effectiveness in addressing the core concerns of stakeholders in this study. Stakeholders are the sellers and the consumers. And this is done through two methodological sub-approaches. One is using a qualitative approach by analyzing the court cases of 71 and followed by a primary data-based empirical strategy wherein she used a logit model. I mean, I have to give this disclaimer that this is not my area. So anything that I'm going to say is only suggestive in nature, and I'll spend more time on the second part of your empirical methodology, because the first part I'm not really confident if we can make any concrete suggestions on it. So, but before, you would be having some of these things which have not come very clearly in the presentation, but I'm assuming that they will have, since this is an industry which not many people are familiar and it is growing. First thing to do is to characterize the industry itself. How fast is it growing, and what has been the trends that we see over time? Why is it that we study this direct selling industry, and what advantages this particular industry has over the traditional way of retailing? And setting the context in this light would make people connect to the entire story of what you're going to do in the subsequent parts of the analysis. That is one part I thought in the introduction that could be, addressed. Now, although I said that I didn't understand much of the content analysis, but you have referred pre-regulation and post-regulation. This is based on the content analysis itself of 71 cases. And one of the things that comes very striking is that the post-regulation period has a lot of quantification of what has happened, which is not really visible during the pre-regulation period. For example, 25% have reported a price decline and so on. A lot of quantification has happened post-regulation period, but somehow a comparison would make even more interesting if there was some quantification that happened, say what kind of cases, what kind of compliance cases, and how much has it really come down after the regulation. Okay. I don't know if your data or the method that you have used would allow you to do that, but if there's any chance of doing it, it would be actually nice to give that comparison. Right now, it's kind of standing apart in the post, and there are many interesting findings that are coming there. Okay, that is one part. And when you are going for the regulatory effectiveness, I thought you could spend a little more time on why the regulatory effectiveness was envisaged in the first place. Although you have mentioned it, but kind of what it is supposed to be doing, what is expected of this particular intervention as a law, and then putting this analysis would make more interesting, or we could put findings in a context. Then I would like to go to this particular part on sampling, where you have said that you have taken 374 respondents, and that has come from your participants of MLM program, right? And then you said that you have done a stratified random. There are two questions here. One is that your sample that you have, from there you are taking a subsample. That sample itself will have some selection, because out of the entire sellers, only some are choosing to participate in this course. Right. That means they might be characteristically very different from those who have not come. So that could, in a way, influence your results. And how do we tackle that? I think you could think about it. I'm not saying that you should do a fresh survey, but to avoid questions in future, maybe you could, kind of rationalize how you can still think of this as a sample that will have randomness. And the other issue is, you have said stratified random, but you didn't really mention what is the stratification unit in the sample. So, so it would be nice if you had actually mentioned, because it was not clear from the data that you have on sellers, on consumers, how would stratification be done or possible, right? So that is one. And then only if that is clear, then how the subsequent sample. So because your total participation list was over 1,000 plus, or what is it? Or you have taken all those who participate, those 374 you're talking about. Are they just the number of participants who registered for MLM, or you took a subsample out of the total list of subsample? Okay. So, and now that takes me to another suggestion. So one of the things that you could have done, which would have connected with the readers better, was to characterize the sample itself. You didn't spend sufficient time on characterizing who are the direct sellers, what are their characteristics, and who are these buyers, what are their characteristics. And then, we will get an idea of, okay, this is the sample that you're dealing with. And then, connecting it to the empirical findings would be relatively easier for us to draw inferences. Okay. And when you move to the empirical part, so I was thinking that you could draw insights that you gather from the content analysis to set up the problem for the next part of your analysis. Are there any insights that are coming from your content analysis, which could be taken for analyzing the effectiveness of this regulatory framework? Now, coming to the effectiveness of regulatory framework, you have taken awareness and satisfaction, right? Now, do they really measure effectiveness? Uh, that is one question, because how do we say being aware, does it really measure effectiveness of a framework? Because effectiveness, as I understand, would come, actually it has come quite well in the content analysis, where all the post regulation period, whatever you identified, compliance issues have come down and price have come down. A lot of things that were earlier seen as the problems in direct selling have been more or less addressed, right? Now, if you want to really test that quantitatively and find out the effectiveness of it, could the question be awareness and satisfaction? Even if that is, then can we ask satisfaction more than yes and no, kind of giving a scaling of, if you had information, you could still try that. But if you don't have it, it's fine. But something that you could maybe spend more time rationalizing why you're taking these two as proxies for effectiveness of regulatory framework. I will stop here.
For the time being.
Yes.
Want to answer it now or something? She can,
She has the freedom to.
whether to answer it now or you can expect other questions also. Do you answer it now? Or you can take,
Do it at the
take your,
end.
at the end you can say. So now I can request the PhD.
Yeah.
So PhD scholars, please ask questions. Not so elaborate like our discussion has given. It can be very questioning, which will help her to improve her thesis. So if you are not asking any questions, you are not helping her. Any doubts also you can ask.
You are here to help yourself.
Yes.
Some of the questions uh, came to us has already been mentioned by Kiran sir, and strata things and all. So, yes. Okay, the first one I need to ask, in your presentation, you have mentioned that maximization of social welfare. There is a word like that. So, for us, for economists, that word associated with something called social welfare functions and all for us. So in commerce and in your theory, there is anything other than that, or you have just used that word to say some to the minimum complaints and all. So that's a first question. And second one, I felt that in regulation period, what's the time frame of that pre-regulation period? 2021. Okay. Is mentioned, but I didn't follow. Okay. In pre-period, you have taken cases, right? And the post-period, you have taken a primary survey. And in the final part, as your findings, you have saying that the misrepresentation has declined, product issue declined, all are declined. How can we compare these two periods? Because with this thing, because one is a cases, only you are going for cases. And because the 100% is problem is there. But in the second part, there won't be like that. So that is my second thing. And also there is a bigger time frame for pre-period, right? From 2000 to 2021. So there may be some time element in type of problems may be there, because in 2000 period, maybe misrepresentation will be the most major problem. But coming from that, the problem, the type of problem may change during the time frame also. So I don't know whether you because you have taken the random 71 only cases. So I don't know whether you could see from that. And coming to the logit model part and all, you have used two logit models, right? For awareness and for direct sellers and consumers. Okay, so what is the response variable there? I didn't get the satisfaction. Oh, satisfaction. Okay, that thing, I have many doubts there, so.
You can ask, no problem.
No, sir, I want to know what the things and all. I couldn't get things from the presentations. That's it.
So in what way you can help her?
Okay.
You ask doubts. Do you have any solutions? Satisfied?
Suggestion.
No, you have suggestions?
I'm not in that position to give suggestions.
You're asking too much.
Yeah, yeah. You asking questions is very easy, but if you can give some solutions also from your side, it will help her in this last month. Right?
Some of the questions are very interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting questions.
Yeah, yeah, please think about it. If you are in facing the problem, how will you solve that issue?
Whether your court cases, the point which he raised is this is not the, those got manifested in approaching a court. That is different from what we exposed analysis which we do. That's actually a serious problem which one could, how do you take care of that? And secondly, that whole 19 years, can we consider it as if perhaps one possibility which is the nature of problems changing could be done by looking at the cases in a chronological manner. What is the focus of the cases in the earlier years? And in terms of as we go from 2001 to 2019, the focus of the issues, has there been any change? That could be these two. One possible way to address this question is that.
Yes, Jerome. Onda. Where? Do you have any other questions? Ranjit.
I'll just add something because again, I'm also not a domain expert in this, but many times she discussed
Both things from Amazon.
okay. So I have some idea about, I mean, what she's doing. So some of the clarificatory questions I think she can incorporate in this one. So this is already raised in this, raised by Kiran. About the methodology part, so some clarity you have to give about the sampling, because simple random sampling for the court cases, 71 cases, how you arrived 71 cases, why not 50, why not 100? So there should be some justification for that. If you are mentioning simple random sampling, okay, that is one. And regarding the stratified sampling, also strata, it is not clearly mentioned. I mean, strata you have to specify very clearly. And regarding the logit model, as you raised already, is it simply yes or no, or you have, I mean, because satisfaction simply yes or no, you cannot, define it as whether it is effective or not. You cannot measure based on that yes or no. So some justification should be there. And why logit? Why not other this method? So that question may be there. Maybe you can address. And in all your this thing, I mean, you after the post regulation, many things have improved, and you are saying that choice of the product has some clarity, misrepresentation has come down, complaint has come down, harassment has come down. But commission, you are saying that it has increased, or it has.
Persistence of illegal commission structures are still going
But
on in the district.
commission percentage has increased, right?
Fraud, element of fraud is still persisting. Not increased as such, but it's still persisting. You cannot say it increased. Yeah, it's still
No,
persisting.
some figure I have seen that the
you
number
show
has
that? Can you
increased.
show that?
So many things you are saying that it is. So, and commission you are linking with your other objectives, right? Commission part. So some clarity is required for that. That's it. The other questions, the questions also, you have to think about very seriously. Thank you.
So any faculty from online, Nirmal, Sumalada, Srimari Anida. Anida is there online. Kona? Hello? Anybody?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sumalada, yeah, surely.
Yeah, sir, I have a little net connection problem. I'll just quickly finish it. First of all, thank you, Aisha, for a nice presentation. You did it well. I have few clarifications. I joined with Kiran and Ranjit on the sampling. I also felt that you can give some justification for the number that you have. Your process is correct, but again for the direct the consumers and the sellers, you have given that number 385 something. So you have to give some justification for it. You may have it. I think you might have selected based on some size or something. So that needs to be clearly mentioned in the writing part. And secondly, the regarding the post and pre content analysis, what I felt was like the some others have also already raised. The problems you could have just like the nature of problems that that these sellers and the consumers were facing in the pre and post regulatory like mechanism would have been clearly brought out, because in post period, though there is regulation, the nature of problems may be different. So your analysis also say that it is not completely kind of solve the problems, but the kind of problems maybe you can list it out, it would be nice. And in in your content analysis in the post period, you have mentioned that 10.3 percentage some false kind of information or something like that. So need some what kind of those some elaboration would be good for the readers. And when you come to the econometric analysis, what I felt was like our Ritik was telling. So first of all, the methodology. Why are you using this probit logic model? Why? What is the importance of this model and the variables that you have used in the right and left side? I hope maybe due to time constraint, you might have not elaborated it, but still, some kind of information on the variables would have been good, so that we will get what kind of connection that you are talking about. And in the conclusion and the suggestion in the final summary and the finding part, you have mentioned that the consumers the problems have been like reduced, but still it is not completely kind of in the final slide you have mentioned that it is in the interest of the consumers, but in the finding you have mentioned that it has not solved the problems of the consumer. So some kind of I felt some contradictory kind of statement. So just look into that also. Otherwise, overall, it was a good presentation. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Anil, UP Anil.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
It's a nice presentation. I have only one suggestion. So it is basically a regulatory framework assessment. There are some issues. These issues we have traced out through the content analysis, and we established that there are issues. Then the government or state decided we have a regulation to address these issues. They introduced a regulation, and we are assessing what was the impact of that regulation. This is the core idea of our thesis. So nowadays, if we get a new idea, all the evaluators will quickly search in the Google regulatory framework analysis for assessment. And if we search in the Google, I am sure that we will find out so many regulatory framework assessment models in the Google, because in all the countries they have their own regulations, and they will do their own regulatory assessments, post regulatory assessments. My that opinion is you have to check whether any established methodology or framework for regulatory framework assessment that is being used in other countries. If it is there, we have to be aware about that. Somebody will ask, if there is a established methodology, then why you are using this kind of that is my suggestion.
Dr. Nirmal, Shamna. Alla, Shamna is not. Then Anida is not there. Anida undo?
Hello,
Anida,
am I audible?
Nirmal, please.
Hello,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, congratulations to the scholar. I would just like to, bring a couple of issues. First thing is with regard to the question of the gap, I would say. Again, I think it's not that forthcoming well because if you want to publish and if you want to think, no, I think even the regulatory perspective, I would suggest, I would have liked you to, very quickly go through, or very quickly highlight the issues in the literature itself, then come to your kind of question. Maybe I couldn't get it because we are going through a very variable net connection. Second thing is with regard to the question of cases, court cases. I would congratulate again for using that data source, bringing out that data source. That is great indeed. And maybe she can publish in the relevant law documents. If she can possibly think about doing that. And finally, maybe the modeling thing, not that expert, but I felt that somehow I couldn't get that model in a clarificatory state.
Your voice is breaking.
That would be okay. I'm leaving it because I am having a very feeble net connection. Thank you.
I think very nice suggestion. Else, PhD students? Yeah, sorry. I thought that you are also a PhD student. Sorry.
So I have two questions. So one is same as like Ranjit sir asked, right? What is the rationale behind selecting 71 cases? Right? You said 200 cases are there, right? During that period, 200 cases are there. So what if 200 cases are related to 200 challenges? You are taking only 35% of total cases, right? And you are ignoring 65%. So instead of going for sampling, you can go for census method, I guess. Only 200 cases are there. So if otherwise you can mention duplication of challenges. That is the reason behind choosing 71. Then in your finding, you mentioned awareness and satisfaction is negatively related, right? So what is the logic behind that? Say for example, if I'm attending some econometrics modeling, okay, I'm not aware about that. So the satisfaction level of that lecture will be less for me, right? If I'm aware about that particular thing, obviously my satisfaction level will be better. So if you're aware about something, your satisfaction level should be higher, right? So in your suggestion, finding for direct selling agent, I guess, right? In case of direct selling agent, awareness and satisfaction level is negative. So what is the reason behind that? Because we, usually commerce and management students are using statistical techniques to support our finding, right? We are not overusing these statistical techniques, right? Because in my PhD thesis also, I found that the level of awareness of female is better than male in terms of GST. Okay, that is my finding. So the finding is supported by the mean value, which is more than 3. So I stated that the awareness level of female is better than male in terms of GST. But you have to answer why, right? Because we have attended some workshop also. There is a level of knowledge, right? Data will be there, information will be there, knowledge will be there, then wisdom, right? So that resource person told at least for PhD students, you should reach the level of knowledge, right? You're telling you are rejecting the null hypothesis, you are accepting the null hypothesis. If a layman is sitting here, so what is the point of rejecting or accepting a null hypothesis, right? You're telling, okay, in terms of awareness level, we found that the p-value is less than 0.05. We rejected the null hypothesis. So what? We are not answering that question. So I have done an analysis of this awareness. So what I found is, it is interesting. In most of the cases, if a husband and wife is there, okay, the wife will be doing shopping, okay, and husband will be waiting outside. So she will be checking the bill and all the price of this thing. So they will be having like awareness level is slightly higher in case of female. Okay. It is an interesting finding, but yeah. You can't generalize. Awareness and satisfaction level. So if you have more awareness, your satisfaction level is less. DS agent. Yes. So what is the reason behind, yeah?
Reason. You want the reasons. So
Okay.
I can have a small test of the awareness of GST rate. Any of you, especially the female students here, can you give the GST rate for gold? Anybody? GST rate for gold? No, anybody? What is the GST rate for gold? I am asking only for ladies.
They don't go by gold. Gold or jewelry.
Gold or jewelry. What is the GST rate for gold or jewelry? Anybody? Yourself? You don't know, say no. Last one, Shamna. Do you know the rate? GST rate for gold? No. Second one? No. Third? No. Fourth? Fifth? Sixth? You are just married now, you know. What is the GST rate for gold and jewelry? No, his father may be knowing it. He may be crying like anything. Next, what about you? Three, correct. So only awareness is very less among the ladies. Especially I'm talking about gold. I'm not asking car, etc. Cigarettes, anybody? They are purchasing gold. No. In Kerala, no, don't think like that. Okay, I'm not going. See, sir, your opinion, please. Sorry, your opinion. It's not
About gold.
no about cigarette.
Yes.
About his.
I think, yeah. I think very interesting questions were raised. I think some of them you should be able to take care. Which will methodologically, I think some of the questions came because you have not stated. You could, in a PhD presentation, you can take 1 hour, 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
To take
You can
much
answer.
time because it should be, you should not be rushing to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, So that many of the questions came because you have not articulated the sample frame, the logic of that. These are important because these are questions that your reviewer will definitely ask. And I don't think that you have a Likert scale kind of a thing for satisfaction. 5-point scale you have. You try that also. And another thing is, Kiran asked about on the one side you take many different indicators, pre and post. When it came to final, this thing you took only 2, satisfaction and awareness. We can have different models. If you have, I'm sure you will have different variables. All those, you can club those into 2-3 categories, run different models instead of these 2 and see how it is behaving. Because you will have the data naturally.
Somebody-
Wherever you,
Yeah.
the point I'm saying that very interesting questions came. And these are questions which any reviewer might raise it. And I think it was very useful for you to preempt such question from the reviewer. I think we should thank participants. And I think that 200, you have 200 cases of only 770 you have taken through. You can do a content analysis and see how it has been and why you are focused on. Those things can be very useful. Otherwise, people may say, why 71? Kind of.
Usually when we do random sampling, it should be proportion of the population, right? Not
Yeah.
proportion of total that you have. So I'm taking 10%, I'm taking 20%, like that. So then the number doesn't matter. When you say 30% of what I have, then whatever be the number will be.
The problem which you have raised is, I don't know how we will address that, because from the MLM, consumers or otherwise, you have a subsample of those who participated in our training. And that could be a selection bias there. From there, you have taken another sample. This is where I think you have there's no possibility of population asserted, there's no possibility of arriving at a population. So, Huh?
There are around 350,000.
Huh?
All Kerala population is available. 350,000 direct sellers are all.
How many?
350,000.
3 lakh.
They are registered, but most of them are dormant. Maybe 50%. I'm talking about sellers. Most of them, I'm also registered seller. I'm not doing anything. That data also including that.
So that's a problem which any statistically oriented reviewer will.
But you can write it as a caveat.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any other option, to say that I don't have data. So this is the caveat I'm dealing with, rather than, giving space for others to raise it. If
You raise it yourself. You are aware of the
you
weakness.
know that you are aware of your.
That's rather than confidently saying that what I did is the correct. This is all what I could do. This is that. Take advance bail. That's the only way. Many of the questions you can anticipatory bail you can take. That's the only way to perhaps.
See, 3 lakh, yeah, sir.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, I think all the questions are very useful questions. I think you can answer. We can, I mean, these are many of them, all of them could be taken. Most important thing is the sample frame selection, that is, which you admit yourself in the absence. You don't need to say that I have a list. You don't need to. The absence of a credible population have gone by, because you justify by saying that, okay, in a fresh area like this, those who are active will naturally get involved in the training. So these are the most active.
So 3 lakhs is there. So mandatory that training should be added, but only after this 3 lakh.
Ramlinga kind of people will not go.
Where this percentage bar training, where the database is available. So sampling
The only
rationality
thing
is very
is,
easy.
this should be informed.
Database of how many are so far trained.
There's the association's number.
No, but at
How
least
many we
the
trained? How many we have?
So from 10,000 you are giving that.
No, 10,000 you take a random sample like this. This is random. Whatever technique is random. Those who are responding. Put a percentage and put it like.
Don't take simple random. Because if you are.
Stratified.
You have to use.
Again, what is the stratification?
Don't
method?
use the word stratified random, sir. That is
Random-
what the word. Why you are using
And
the
why-
word
why-
stratified?
what merit
You
of-
have-
and
How
you're
many
not going to get any-
stratification you have done?
Then you have to-
Strata, you have to specify.
Because you are
use
using
the word.
data, you are.
How many strata is there? It's very difficult.
Simple random sample is
Ah.
enough.
Simple random sampling.
That's enough.
We cannot use the word
Attract-
convenient sampling. You can-
Don't yourself attract problems for it.
Random sampling. Random sampling method. Yeah. You responded. After that,
I would like to thank all those who have raised the questions. Majority of the questions were lapses on my part where I haven't clearly communicated how the sampling frame has been constructed. And with regard to certain key questions which I need to address, especially what Ritvik has asked, I'll be looking into that. And this awareness practices and satisfaction are based on the constructs. These constructs are derived from the content analysis. That is what we have: the commission, the product, and prices. So you are aware about the pricing of the product. You are aware about the commission structure of the product and the derived satisfaction from that so-called construct. This is how I've derived the question. I think I haven't communicated the variable selection process quite clearly. Then sampling. With regard to 71 cases, we have limited to 71 cases because much of the other cases were repetition of the previous case, means the same case filed by 2 or 3 direct sellers. Like that cases we have completely removed from our this one to avoid the repetition of the cases. That's why we have arrived at 71. And
See that you have written in the draft. I didn't ask question.
in the presentation it has not come. Okay. And with established frameworks, which Anu sir have asked, we are using the regulatory impact, based on the regulatory impact assessment, we are using the regulatory effectiveness assessment framework. There is an methodology in OECD nations.
See that again, it was there in the draft.
You haven't mentioned that. So people will think that, okay, you are framing a new thing, okay, without referring any of the existing.
A negative reasoning for, okay, the reason for negative between awareness and satisfaction. Naturally, when the direct sellers join direct selling entity, they have certain awareness criteria about certain mandates which should be followed within the company, and this awareness lead to certain expectations. But if these expectations are not being met, it leads to dissatisfaction. That is how we arrived at a negative relationship between the two. I hope that answers the question. Right? Logic model is used because we have binary outcomes, satisfied and not satisfied. That's why we have used the logic model. We can only satisfied and not satisfied.
Yeah, why not?
That is where you had shown what proportion of people are shown satisfied, what proportion of your sample is shown not satisfied. If the sample is skewed towards a particular answer, then Robert will not give efficient power because it rests on OLS.
Same.
So one rests on the OLS properties. So that means normality and all have to be satisfied.
Who suggested?
And when the
that?
sample is skewed, then
Who suggested you to do that? Can you pinpoint a person? No, you himself selected.
Through
Discussion. La Vijaymohan Pillai. He could have asked to come.
Proportion I have shown.
പെട്ടെന്ന് കഴിഞ്ഞു ഭയങ്കര ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ആയിരുന്നു ആൻസർ ഇസ് വെരി സിമ്പിൾ സോ ഐ ഹാവ് ഗോൺ ത്രൂ ഹർ some of the chapters of the first thesis. All of my suggestions are based on suggestions only. She can take or she can reject based on her what we call it as thinking on that. She has made an evolution of the direct selling that is for the last so many years. Based on the evolution, she has referred 71 cases, don't mention 200 cases. She has selected 71 cases out of even 1,000 cases, which is directly related to this, what we call it as direct selling, everything, etc. For how many years? 25 years. So actually, you cannot go back and do what is called opinion survey during this period. So the best result is case study method. I am not supporting her, I am telling that. Best result is case study method. What is the end result? Cases is the final thing which come to the court of law. Something has settled between what is called through as discussion and negotiations, etc. The case is something which came to most of the cases I came through that is something regarding cheating only. So cheating is something, cheating regarding the payment of commission, cheating regarding the goods, the quality of the goods, everything, so many things are there. So she has referred the IPC and CRPC sections, etc., which is mainly related with the cheating. Am I right? So instead, and during that what we call it as regulatory period, the best thing is that you can argue. Best thing is that go through the case laws. What are the cases which appeared, and you list their issues which has gone through that. So evolution is there, case laws is there. From the case laws, how the regulatory framework and rules and the Consumer Protection Act has saved this, what is called as covered these issues which is before the cases. That you have to answer. Then finally, the opinion survey. That is post regulation, post case. So these are the order which you can see that. There should be a connecting link between the evolution, the case laws, and the regulation and the opinion survey. So what is the end result? For example, if I ask one question, if you are asked to reframe the regulation, what are the new suggestions you are going to give based on your opinion survey? If you are asked to reframe the regulations, you think about from that angle. What are the gaps you are going to that? How you are going to reframe it? That is the suggestion. That from that suggestion, you think about the opinion survey. You can even rewrite it because ഇതൊരു കല്യാണം കഴിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പെയാണ് ആരെ കല്യാണം കഴിക്കണം, ആരെ ലവ് ചെയ്യണമെന്നൊക്കെ തീരും. വൺസ് ലവ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞു, കല്യാണം കഴിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ പിന്നെ തിരിച്ച് മാറ്റമില്ല. നിങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചല്ല കേട്ടോ, ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ഫോർ യു. അത് അതിനെ പിന്നില്ല. പിന്നെ അതിനെ വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് എങ്ങനെ ജീവിക്കാം. സോ വാട്ട് ഓൾ യു ഹാവ് ഡൺ ഇറ്റ്, അത് വെച്ച് അതിൻ്റെ ബേസിൽ എങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് നോക്കുക. പുതിയതായിട്ട് ഒന്നും ഇനി ചെയ്യാൻ പോകണ്ട. ബിക്കോസ് യു ആർ ഗോയിങ് ടു ഡു ആഫ്റ്റർ 3 months കംപ്ലീറ്റ് സബ്മിഷൻ പോവാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് വെച്ചിട്ട് എങ്ങനെ ഫൈൻ ട്യൂൺ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, ഇതാണ് നമുക്ക് കൊടുക്കാനുള്ള സജഷൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ആ സജഷൻ ഇപ്പോൾ ഇവർ പറഞ്ഞ എല്ലാ ഇഷ്യൂസുകളും ഒരു അതിൻ്റെ സൊല്യൂഷൻസ് ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. സം ഓഫ് ദ സൊല്യൂഷൻസ് ആർ ദെയർ. സാമ്പിളിംഗ് ഓൾസോ, you need not want to use the word stratified, random sampling, etc. Because people are using, I can also use it. Don't like do that. Because you can say that 3,50,000 people undannulladu. Is there any data? No data. So don't mention it. If there is no data, supporting data, don't mention it. See, we have conducted what we call it as awareness program is there. From the awareness program, X number of people have attended and 350 people have responded to my queries. That's all. Is there any problem in that? Sampling issue statistically? You can answer that. 10,000 പേര് വന്നു, ഞാൻ ഓരോരുത്തർ ചോദിച്ചു എന്നെ കൊണ്ട് പറ്റില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. 350 പേര് അല്ല, അതാണല്ലോ 380 അല്ലേ, 380 പേര്. യു സേ 420 420 പേര്. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരുടെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഒക്കെ പകുതിയായിരുന്നു. സോ ഐ ഹാവ് സെലക്ടഡ് 380 എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്കൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമുണ്ടോ എന്ന് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ. യു ഹാവ് ടു തിങ്ക് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. യു ക്യാൻ ആസ്ക് വിജയ് മോഹൻ ഓർ ദീസ് പീപ്പിൾ. ഇല്ല, സാമ്പിളിങ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. ബിക്കോസ് പോപ്പുലേഷൻ ഇസ് നോട്ട് ദെയർ. നമുക്ക് അവയർനെസ് പ്രോഗ്രാമിന് വന്ന ആൾക്കാരുടെ അടുത്ത് ചോദിച്ചു, ട്രെയിനിങ്ങിന് വന്ന ആൾക്കാരുടെ അടുത്തൊക്കെ ഓരോരുത്തർ ചോദിച്ചു. ചിലർ പറഞ്ഞു ഞാൻ പുതിയ ആളാണ്, എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. No, I am asking a question whether this type of analysis is ഇത് ഇങ്ങനെ എഴുതിയാൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമുണ്ടെന്നാണ് ചോദിച്ചത്. വാക്ക് you can use it. Statistically there are so many.
There is a randomness in people's response.
The word you can use it. ഇതാണ് സത്യം. നടന്നത് ഓരോരുത്തരടുത്ത് ഞാൻ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഓരോരുത്തരടുത്ത് പോയി അവർ ചോദിച്ചു എനിക്ക് വയ്യ. അതല്ലേ ഒപ്പീനിയൻ സർവേ. എനിക്ക് വയ്യ. 350 പേര് റെസ്പോണ്ട്. ഒരു 450 പേര് റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്തു. 350 പേരുടെ മാത്രമേ ഫില്ലായി, നല്ല ബാക്കിയൊക്കെ കളയാൻ പറ്റിയതാണ്. അത് 350 പേര് മാത്രമേ പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളൂ. അതിന് ഏത് പേരിട്ട് വിളിക്കും എന്നുള്ളതാണ് സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്കൽ എക്സ്പേർട്ട് പറയേണ്ടത്. അല്ലാതെ നിങ്ങൾ പറയുന്ന അനുസരിച്ച് ഇവര് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റൂല.
Each respondent had an equal chance of being selected. There was a sampling frame of around 10,000.
You need to have sampling frame.
There was a sampling frame. The sampling frame was limited to the training database.
ട്രെയിനിങ് ഡേറ്റാബേസ് പറഞ്ഞു. Yeah, exactly. You can. Yes, that's the
population she will take care.
അത് പറയാ. അല്ല 10,000 പേരെയും I am interested to select, but only 3.
That those who are coming might have a bit.
Yes, that is the limitation.
That is the limitation.
of the
But
data.
given that limitation, you can say
Say
that
that.
this is what my sample compares.
No, that's what.
10,000 350 എന്ന് പറയണ്ട. അത് ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് കുറഞ്ഞു പോകും. അത് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ നിങ്ങൾ ഓരോ ഡിസ്ട്രിക്റ്റിൽ പോയി ചോദിക്കാത്തത്, ഓരോരുത്തർ വീട്ടിൽ പോകാത്തതെന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ ആൾക്കാർ അന്വേഷിച്ചു.
Profile. When we have done the survey, we have gone through district wise, company.
But you have not given any profile. പ്രൊഫൈൽ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യണം. പ്രൊഫൈൽ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യണം.
അവിടെയാണ് സ്റ്റാറ്റിഫൈഡ്.
കൺസ്യൂമറുടെ പ്രൊഫൈൽ. അതെ.
Company, district.
പ്രൊഫൈല് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അതൊന്ന് പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യണം. അത് പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. അതാണ്.
Company, district, urban, rural, like that we have done the classification. based on
Okay,
the
then
company.
actually when you give all these, you will be inviting troubles because in the model, they'll ask you how the rural and urban, they'll actually, you have a rural dummy, and this is a problem.
See, you're talking about awareness and satisfaction, right? You could instead ask, are you aware or not? You can also be asked whether your awareness has increased post.
No, he has asked a question. What is your question? Awareness and? What is the question you have asked regarding awareness? What question you asked? Can you tell the question tag?
In case of direct sellers, what all mandates as per the regulation, are they aware about the commission structure? Are they aware about
The entire activities. Apa, one question only. Then what about the satisfaction question? Then what is the satisfaction question?
Satisfaction with the related, this one, are they satisfied with the?
ഓരോന്നായിട്ട് പറയാം. അപ്പൊ അവയർനെസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ജനറൽ ആയിട്ടും സാറ്റിസ്ഫാക്ഷൻ ഓരോന്നായിട്ടാണ് ചോദിച്ചേക്കുന്നത്. സോ വെരി ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ്, യു ഷുഡ് ബി വെരി കെയർഫുൾ.
You can create a score because you have 10 questions, right? Suppose you have 10 questions about are you aware of 10 items, and then one individual says I'm aware of 8, somebody says only 2, somebody says only 5. Okay, right now you may be saying either any of them, an individual or a seller is aware, you are giving value 1. Instead of that, if you can create scores for these two variables, it might give you a lot more variability in data.
അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും ഒന്ന് ചിന്തിക്കുക, ഇടയ്ക്കിടയ്ക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും അവരുടേതായിട്ടുള്ള കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ ഒന്ന് കൊടുക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അതുപോലെ കിട്ടും നിങ്ങളുടെ. കാരണം സബ്മിഷൻ സമയത്ത് എല്ലാവരും ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യണം. ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അവരവരുടെ ഒപ്പീനിയനായിട്ട് ഒരു ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യുക, അവരവരുടെ ചിന്തിക്കുന്നത് ഒന്ന് വിളിച്ച് പറയുക. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഷീ മേ ടേക്ക് ഓർ ഷീ മേ നോട്ട് ടേക്ക്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് യുവർ ജോബ് ഇസ് ടു ഹെൽപ്പ് ദ others to submit the thesis in a very effective manner. So can we wish her to submit it in earlier? So thank you. So,
Okay.
thank you.